Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name's Laurie. I am a fantasy romance reader, and although this is very late, I mean we're like midway part through February at this point, but this is my top 10 books that I read in 2025. This was really hard. The top 5 was so easy. The last 5, that was hard because I read a lot of amazing books in 2025. I discovered a lot of god tier series, a lot of 5-star readers, but I have finally accumulated the list. Will this be subject to change? Probably, because there are a lot more books I wanted to fit in here and it was really hard to order them the way that I wanted to, but we're gonna go from 10 to 1, and I'm really excited about these books. A lot of these are, yeah, just books that just really blew me away. It's funny, I actually prepared this list in the beginning of January and it has since changed from then because I couldn't set the last 5 books. It was so hard to settle on what those books would be and what order they should be. Anyway, it was really hard. But the number 10 is Blood and Betrayals by Jeanette Rose and Alexis Rune. I really loved this. This was surprisingly amazing. I'm not really someone who picks up character driven books. Sometimes I love them, sometimes I don't. This one really shocked me. I didn't think I was gonna love it as much as I did, and then I did, and I couldn't get enough. This was like what I imagine Zodiac Academy is. Yeah. This is what I imagine Zodiac Academy is and what people talk about when they talk about the Zodiac Academy, but I really liked the writing in here and I really fell into it, and I loved these characters and I loved following on along with their lives, and I loved the drama and the plot and the mystery. Now, we're following an FMC who had been given a mysterious acceptance to a university she never applied to. When she comes to this university, she's still on the back foot. She doesn't really understand how she's been accepted to a university she hasn't applied to. She's kind of secluded. She is someone who likes to be alone, doesn't have any friends, and has a lot of questions about her life and who she is. But she ends up making friends with her roommate and they get really close. But weird things start to happen in this university, and we are following her as she gets acclimated to her new life, and as she gets acclimated to university, and as she makes friends and the romances in her life. But she has all these weird incidences that are happening. She has this stalker that's been following her who she has no idea about, but yet can't help but get close to. And although we have this mystery and this plot that's underlining, this first and foremost is definitely to set up the world, to set up the FMC and set up all the people in her life, rather than focus on that plot. I think the focus of the plot will be properly developed in book 2. And sometimes I really hate that, and I really like the plot to be first and foremost, and you know, us to get on with what this book is about rather than be kind of stagnant. This is not that. Somehow this is really well developed, really interesting. You can't help but fall into it, and the fact that the plot is not developing much at all doesn't even matter because you're so sucked into the drama and what's happening in these characters' lives. But this also has a lot of emotional turmoil because the way this ended, I wasn't sad about it because I wanted something else to happen, so this kind of opened the way to that. But it was kind of heartbreaking for the characters, and it really set up on what book 2 is going to be, and you can definitely tell that the book 2 is definitely going to be a focus point of the plot. I really hope, because I have so many questions and I really want to know what's happening and what all these mysteries that are following the FMC and who she is. That will be, I hope I'm really explaining this right, but there's like so many things in my head. I read this beginning to mid last year. I still remember everything about this. I could literally tell you everything that happens in this book, and there'll be no questions. I could answer any question about this book because for some reason it's completely ingrained itself into my brain and really captured my interest, and I've been dying for book 2. I think it's called Secrets and Sorrows, or Something in Sorrows, but they have been picked up traditionally, so I think the release for book 2 has been pushed, which is heartbreaking, but I think it's going to be well worth the wait. I am so excited for the next book in this. It's just completely shocking how much I ended loving this, because it's not a book. The vast majority of my books on my shelves, this is not one that's like, this type of book is not on here as much as other fantasy romances, if that makes sense. But yeah, this blew me away, shocking, absolutely devoured it. Okay, this is where it started to get really hard, because there are two books that I didn't know what to place one over the other, but although they're pretty tied, at number 9 we have The Inadequate Heir. This is the second set of interconnected duologies in the Bridge Kingdom series. I love the entire Bridge Kingdom series, and at number 9 it would be the entire Bridge Kingdom series, but this duology is my favourite, and this one just had me so giddy and so on the edge of my seat, and these characters were so well established and real and lifelike, and the world was so vivid, and it was so easy to fall into, like every book in the series. But this one has really gotten its hook in me, and I can't stop thinking about it, and I can't stop thinking about these characters. This is for sure the best romance within the whole world. Each book definitely has their struggles that they go through, and there's definitely a lot of turmoil and tension and stuff, but this one is just that the most at stake, and they each have such separate, I mean, again, like each book, they each have their separate goals and things they're striving for and the things they're putting first and foremost over themselves. But in this one, it's just felt more so. There is so much that these characters are going through, and they're both the heads of their kingdoms, and they want to put their kingdoms first, and they want to do what's best, especially for FMC, who is the heir to her kingdom, but she's torn between making her empress happy and doing what the empress has kind of raised her for, but also being her own person and knowing that things are wrong and that things need to change. And you really see her fight with those two aspects of herself, and wanting to, you know, be close to the empress, who is her family, and make her happy and make her proud. But also she realizes that, you know, things can't be the way they are, and that things need to change, and that there are more important things. And you really see her develop through that, and where she gets to the final book, the second book in the duology, is just, she's just so strong, and I really love her as the FMC, and she's one of my favorites. But yeah, I love this series. I already want to reread it. I literally read it mid last year, and I already want to reread it. It was so good. At number 8, it's The Wind Weaver by Juliet Johnson. I know exactly where I was when I read this. I know exactly what time of year it was. It was the peak of summer in the UK. I was laying down in my garden tanning, and although it was the hottest day of summer, I couldn't put this down. You know when you're so hot, you just feel like you don't want to do anything. You just feel absolutely exhausted, and you just want to sleep and take in the sun and drink cold drinks. Even though I was so struggling with the heat, nothing could tear me away from this book. From page 1, I was completely captivated and thrown into a world that was so vivid and atmospheric, and the author really knew what she was doing with those first couple scenes, because immediately things were happening. Immediately there was the plot that we were thrown into. Immediately there was angst and tension between the characters, and all these secrets and betrayals. It was superb, and I read it in one sitting. It was a struggle, don't get me wrong, it was a struggle, but you know when you become irrationally angry when anyone disturbs you, when you're in the midst of a really, really good book, and you don't want to be pulled back to reality just yet, you want to stay inside this book. That's what I was like reading this book. I did not want to be disturbed, and anyone that disturbed me seriously regretted it. And I did apologize afterwards, but this book was so good that there was just, I couldn't help it. Like, I just didn't want to be torn away. Okay, this one was really, really hard to place because, like I said, there were so many books, but at number 7 we have The Knight and the Moth. Listen, I have like 4 books that I want to just be tied for first. This is one of them, but unfortunately there was just so many books I read that this did end up at number 7, but I still think that's a really good place to be. I love Rachel Gillick's writing. She has such a gothic, atmospheric way of writing, and it's so beautiful, and you fall into this world that's so unique, and you fall into a plot that's so unique. This was everything I want from a Rachel Gillick story and more. This was funny, this was angsty, this was fun. The FMC was going through a lot. She developed, she discovered her in person. Do I feel like the development of the FMC was a bit rushed, which is kind of why it's at number 7? Yes, I do feel like the FMC needed more time to develop properly, and instead of just jumping into a new situation after being raised the way she was raised her entire life and being brainwashed to believing the way of the world was supposed to work and the way they manipulated her and her sisters into believing something so that they could use them. I do think that she needed more time to develop before she threw herself into a new situation outside of trying to save her sisters, because it didn't feel, when she did what she did and kind of was thinking about what to do with her future, I felt like she didn't know herself enough outside of the situation she was born in yet to kind of make that decision. And I would have really loved to have her discover her freedom, discover herself before making a decision like that. I really think that that was something that should have kind of come up in book 2 rather than in book 1. But otherwise, this was such an amazing read. Obviously, the Gargoyle is the stealer of the show. He is the standout character in this book. He is such... he's so heartbreaking and you can't help but love him, and even those small little glimpses of him packs such a punch, and I can't wait to see him in book 2 and see what he's up to. And I hope he's okay, because I don't think my heart could take it if anything happened to him. At number 6, we have Nocticadia by Keri Lake. This one, I mean, I did a reading vlog of this in 2025. Oh my god, you need to watch it because I went through it reading this. I was so giggly, kicking my feet in the air, having the time of my life while reading this. You know when a book just makes you so irrationally happy, you don't want to pull away and you want it to keep going? One book is not enough with these characters. One book is not enough with this story. I know it is a standalone. I'm really hoping we get more books within this world because I just loved it so much. The angst, the tension, the romance between these characters, the will they, won't they, the little moments that screamed so loud. This was so good. I am so happy I picked this up because I still think about it to this day. This is a book that I know if I'm ever in a reading slump or I feel like I need something different or like need to kind of come away from fantasy romances, this is the book I'm always going to go to because it was just, it's easy to read, it's easy to fall into, the characters are just so much fun to be with, and yeah, I love it so much. At number 5, we have Nevermore by Miranda Lynn. I have talked on and on and on about this book in multiple videos on my TikTok. I cannot shut up about this book. This has one of the most mind-blowing, jaw-dropping, head-exploding plot twists of all time. I was genuinely so stumped by that plot twist. I was staring at my wall numbly for like an hour trying to process what the fuck I just read and how that just happened because I didn't see it coming. It was so out of left field. You kind of have this creeping feeling that something really bad's gonna happen, but even with that, and obviously with a fantasy romance, of course there's going to be a plot twist, of course something's going to go wrong, because otherwise that, you know, there's no point in a book 2. This is just so unexpected. Of all the things I thought could have happened, it was definitely not that. And I mean, Miranda Lynn really knows how to write a world that gets its claws in you and doesn't want to pull away. Every book she's written in this world has been a 5-star. Every book I've read from her has been a 5-star. The romance is outstanding. The world building is gripping and enticing, and the plot is ever developing and ever exploding. I can't get enough. And I am so, there's no words for the excitement level that I have for the next book in the Neversky series, because I think I know who it's going to be, like who the FMC in that book is going to be, and I'm so excited because there is so much mystery surrounding this character and what they're going to be and who they're going to be and what their role is going to be within this world, that I am just on the edge of my seat waiting for that book, because I just think it's going to be delicious and gripping and enticing and intriguing and all of it. I think it's just going to be phenomenal. I had so many theories while reading this. There's so much writing in the edges of these on the edges of these books where I'm just like, the annotating is insane, but Miranda Lane can do no wrong. I love every book that she writes. At number 4, we have Diabound by Sable Sorensen. Of course, this is a top 5 read. This is one of the best fantasy romances I have ever read. I was screaming from the rooftops about this book. I cannot recommend it enough. The trials, the desperation the FMC goes through, how the journey is not easy, and how it just makes it so and how it makes it so gripping is because the FMC doesn't just walk into this scenario and it's like, oh, okay, this is me now. No, it's a constant push and pull on her wanting to be in this scenario and trying to accept her place, but also being pulled because the reason why she entered these trials is combating her desire to be a part of it, and you really see that. And then the whole romance in this is just, you're left so confused because you feel that you should be rooting for something, but then you're like, this is set up so well, like, why am I not rooting for this, and why am I rooting for this? And it's so good. I am so excited for Furybound. It cannot come quick enough because I have like 4 editions of this book. That's how much I love this book. I'm so excited for Furybound. Do you know what's nuts? I didn't think this book could be topped. I think Furybound is going to top it because I just don't see how it can't. With what I know is coming, obviously I don't know exactly how it's going to come about, but you know what's coming, and how everything's now properly set up and cemented, and you really understand the FMC and these characters, and just so well established in this world. I just think Furybound is one of those books that I am going to read as soon as it's in my hand. I'm going to pick up the first book like a week before its release. I'm really hoping that I get blessed with an arc. I would literally cry if I get blessed with an arc of Furybound. I have an arc of Diabound. I read Diabound when they were still indie published, and to get an arc of Furybound, I would just be so unimaginably happy to be able to read it early. I'll be screaming from the rooftops, but speechless by this book. Anyway, at number 4, we have Terror at the Gates by Scarlett St. Clair. Honestly, when I say 2025 was some of the best books I've ever read, it was some of the best books I've ever read. Terror at the Gates, another book that I could reread over and over and over again and never get enough of, because these characters have like literally written their names on my heart. I love everything about this book. It's so unique, especially with the whole religion aspects of this world. I'm not typically a reader who likes a book that's overly religious or has such religion at such a forefront. This is done so well and explores so many themes that really have you thinking about real life and so much things. I really love this. I love the really unique point of view. I loved this world, this urban fantasy world where women have the power and are yet at the mercy of men and are treated less than men who have no power, who have no magic. And you have this FMC who has escaped their life because they're not willing to settle for anything less than what they deserve and what they want out of their life. And she has a man that will literally do anything for her. She calls him and he is there. Oh my god, I want to read this right now. It's making me so happy just talking about it. This was a book that surprised me. I've read Scarlett St. Clair's other books. No book has made me feel like this has in her world, in the book she's written. I went to go see her when she did the book tour for this because I read this in July 2025, and I remember everything about this book. I have been holding off doing another reread because I know when I reread it again, it's going to make it that much harder to wait for book 2, but I have been stalking Scarlett St. Clair's page for any and every bit of news of her writing and where she is with the writing of this book. But she has announced that she's writing this. She has announced that this will be coming out in the later half of 2026, which I'm just so happy it's coming out in 2026. I will be counting down the days for that release, and as soon as it's in my hand, I will be picking it up because I just won't be okay until this. If I could read this entire series all at once, I would actually be in heaven. You know, when a book just becomes like a best friend. Just, you always look to, you always want to reach for. It makes you so irrationally happy to think about it. This is that book to me. I was gobsmacked by the end of this. I didn't want it to end. The thought of it ending made me want to cry, because I just didn't want to leave this world and these characters and this romance, and I just want to reread it. I feel like I am. I think I'm gonna read this, because I cannot stop thinking about it, and this is just a book that I think I could reread a million times and never get bored of. And I know it's gonna make it that much harder to wait for book 2, but there's no aspect of this that's boring or makes me want to skip or doesn't make me look forward to. I want to read every single page back to front multiple times, and that's that. These two were the hardest to settle for the number 1 spot and the number 2 spot, but I think they are pretty tied, but one definitely does outshine the other no matter how hard it is. Alchemized by Sin Lin Yu. This was the best dark fantasy I have ever read. The way the emotions this book pulled out of me, the way I had to pull myself multiple times away just to get a breather to process what I just read, the emotional turmoil, the trauma, the elements that are just like the elements that are explored, the way that this author really knows how to pull at your heartstrings, what she wants you to feel, how she wants you to see this world, and the way she gives you both sides, and the time jumps. It's just one of the most unique books I've ever read, one of the best dark fantasy books I've ever read, a book that I will always think about, a book that's ingrained itself in my brain. I don't know how to properly put into words how phenomenal this book is, because I just don't think I can do it justice. I think this is a book that needs to be read. Definitely read trigger warnings. Do be aware, though there is romance in this, it's not a romance. It's a dark fantasy, first and foremost, with romance elements, but there are other things that are explored that are more important than the romance in here. It's just, it's a hard journey to go through. I have been wanting to do a reread, but I just don't feel ready yet. The way I have the annotations in here is just, you're going to want to annotate this book. Let me just say that. This is a book that even if you're not an annotator, you're going to want to annotate, because there are so many like lines that shout at you. There's so many things. I was talking to myself multiple times while reading this. I think if I was on public transport, if I was in somewhere public, people would think I was genuinely crazy, because I was having full-blown conversations with myself. If there's any book that you're going to read from this pile, if you want something really emotionally hard-hitting, that really makes you think, that completely puts its claws in you, whether you want it to or not, this is the book for you. I've made my sister read this and she has loved it. She's cursed me and loved me for it at the same breath, because this is just a book that you can't stop thinking about, and it's hard. It's really, really hard, and it's really, really emotional, but it's so worth it. And then last but not least, The Jasad Crown by Sarah Hashem. This is number 1 because of that ending. Alchemized ending, let me just say, this ending hit so much harder. I was sobbing my eyes out, and every time I thought about that ending, it makes me want to cry, because it's one of the best romances I've ever read. The best, truest enemies to lovers. If you want a true, like, I can't stress this enough, actual enemies to lovers, where they're not lovers within the first book, but they're constantly fighting the tension and the angst. Oh, I love this book so much. This duology is just phenomenal. This is a god tier duology for me. These characters have just made their space in my soul. They're one of my top favorite characters of all time. I love them so much. It makes, every time I think about the ending, it makes me want to cry, because I didn't see it coming. And it was really, really hard and really just ugly crying, just absolutely ugly crying while reading this ending. Oh, just thinking about that ending just makes me so sad but so happy at the same time. It took me so long to process that ending. It took me so long to move past that ending. I'll never be okay because of it. So it's just, they're my babies. I love them so much. God, just the trauma and the stuff they go through is just, it's so sad. But that is my top 10 books of 20. Maybe I'm a masochist because the way that my top 2 books of all time were emotionally devastating, and yet I rate them so highly, there's something wrong with me, but that's neither here nor there. Those were my top 10 books of 2025. I just had the best reading year. I'm so excited for 2026, and we're already off to the best start. And I'm so excited to what the rest of the year will bring, and to the sequels of some of these books, because I think they're just going to be mind-blowing. But I really hope you enjoy this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. What book was your top book of 2025? I would actually love to know. Have you read Alchemized? Did you love Alchemized? You can find me on all socials as Laurie Reads with a Z, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.